So that was one thing that happened there, but I thought we'd pull it back a bit and we'd kind of go in order, and we'd start with iOS. Now, I even said on my Twitter at TechMode Podcast, and a lot of other people were saying there was a lot of leaks going around that, I'm just going to put my arm here because I'm shaking the table a bit, but we heard from a lot of people that iOS was going to be called iPhone OS, which I agreed with. It made sense because we've got iPad OS, the Switch last year, we've now got Mac OS, so it just made sense to make the streamline of software to match the product. So it was a surprise when I saw that they didn't announce it as iPhone OS and still iOS, but I guess that's good. iOS is probably one of their biggest software platforms, and changing a name might be too jarring for a lot of people who don't keep up with the behind the scenes. So iOS 14 was a big one. I mean, I have the beta currently on my phone, and I would say you get bored of it after about a day of playing with it. I mean, it's great. I mean, we've got we'll just go in order here, kind of. So they've said they've changed the whole experience of it, and I do agree. It has changed the experience. We've got the widgets now, which I get slightly over people saying stolen from Android. Here's my view on that. So you take Android and you look at how they do their stuff. It's different. It's completely different to how Apple does things. And you can look and say, sure, Android has done widgets for years and years, but there's something about how Apple takes something and then they use that and they actually make it better. I will say by far, currently, that I like the iOS widgets more than I like the Android widgets. And we haven't got third-party widgets yet, although that will most likely be coming when we've got the APKs and developers being able to make third-party widgets. So there's a lot of potential there, but I just like how Apple does it. I mean, there's something about I don't know what it is, the design of it, the bubble kind of rounded edges, it makes it look nice. And quite frankly, I think Apple did it slightly better. And sure, Android did it years before, but it doesn't matter because face recognition has been on Android for centuries, but it's never been as good as Apple's Face ID. Apple can take something and they can make it leaps and bounds better, but you might not get it 10 years before, So I think it's quite good that Apple has done the widgets. We finally got a major home screen redesign. It's not really a redesign because the icons and stuff are still the same. But nonetheless, I mean, I love the widgets. I think the widgets are fantastic. And you do get bored of them, but it's a new way of being able to use your phone. It's really emphasizing on having more in-depth information and still being able to basically get the information that you need. And you can see down there a bit that the most revolutionary feature of all that took them only a few years to do is the call sequence. So now instead of the phone hijacking, we get, I can't believe that this is what it's come to. We're hyping up a feature when you get a little banner at the top for a phone call and you don't get the whole phone screen taken up. I've got to applaud to Apple there. They did it. They finally did it. It took them long enough to do it. It's a bit buggy at the moment, but it's fantastic. You can use the phone at your will, and now you can dismiss phone calls if you don't want to answer it. It's damn revolutionary, and it's almost like, they're the first company to do it, but they aren't. We've also got the app library, which is the app drawer, basically just iOS version. And again, I don't know what it is, but I feel like Apple has done it better. So they haven't just basically I don't know, for lack of better words, just dumped the apps onto the app drawer. They've categorized it in folders, and you get suggestions based on how much you use that app. And I just think it's a much better way of approaching having a library of apps. So you can see the most used apps are big at the front, and you get the small ones kind of down the corner, and the animations are really nice as you open them up. I think it's a much better approach to it. And it's pretty easily accessible. You just go to the end of your pages on your phone and it's there. And that's another thing that they did as well. You can't see it on here, they don't really show it, but you have the ability now to hide pages on your phone. So if you don't like a page that's on your phone that's full of apps, you can hide it and you don't have to scroll through to see it, which is great. I just think it's interesting that Apple does this all now. I don't even think it comes down to the fact that it takes them years to really like make it, like finalize it and make it good. I don't think it takes that. I do think that it solely just comes down to the fact that Apple likes to wait. Apple likes their customers to complain, because in a way complaining makes headlines, if anything. I mean, and then remember when Apple and iOS 13 redesigned the volume HUD and everyone went berserk. That's probably something that Apple wants. Apple wants people to go berserk because, quite frankly, going berserk gets news headlines. You don't see Android a lot in the news headlines for new innovations. So Apple does that well. So that, I mean, I'm not Tim Cook here. I don't know his marketing strategies, but I do believe that's partly a reason as to why they do that. We've also got picture-in-picture, which did again take them long enough, which is great. So you can now you can't watch YouTube natively in the app. You do have to go to the web browser version, but you can watch Netflix, apparently. I haven't tried it myself yet, but you can get Netflix in picture-in-picture, which is great. And one thing as well that I did tweet out on my Twitter, that I did notice there's a few little higgledy-piggledy things that Apple didn't tell you, but just going on my Twitter here, there is a new indicator that tells you up the top here. If we zoom in here, you can see up the top there on the control center, there's now depending on what you're using, so there's an orange little dot above the Wi-Fi reception signal that tells you if you're using if an app using your microphone, or if something's using your camera, and you can go into the control center and it will tell you more about what that app is and what it's using. So that's an interesting way of tackling that. Apple did say that they're tackling privacy a lot more. There's the new, it's like kind of like a blocker report on Safari that helps you keep track of who's tracking you, and if it's blocked anything on the web, which is great. Apple's taking a good approach to privacy and security, which I love. This is an interesting one. So I think Apple's done a really good job on the messages. I think Apple has always been good at doing messages, and it just shows it more here with iMessage. So you can now pin conversations, which is great. It's great to have the most primary conversations that you use the most at the top. But what takes it further for me is the fact that they've done real attention to detail. So you can see here, when you get a notification, you can see that when that person is typing, you get a notification and it actually shows you in that little bubble who wrote and what they wrote. It's fantastic. It works great for group chats as well. The little profile pictures the little profile pictures surround themselves around the profile picture, and you can see who's texted what and who's typed what. I just think it's context at a glance, instead of having to go into a conversation and try and find out who said what and wait for a type. It's context, it's deep context without having to actually go far to find it, which is something that a lot of software needs. You have to go digging deeper to find stuff. Where here it's at the front of the screen. You can see it all. You don't have to go digging deep, which is great. And they've also done more to the group chat, which, do people really use the group chat feature in iMessage? I don't. I mean, I literally just created a random group chat just for the sake of seeing the new features. But I mean, no one really uses the group chat feature. But nonetheless, you can now do inline replies. You can mention people. It's basically just Messenger for Apple, really. But I've always loved the Apple ecosystem. I've always loved Apple's iMessage. But that limitation is you have to have an iPhone to have a group chat, and it goes back to that old culture of you've got the green bubbles, you don't have an iPhone. What are you, like, poor? It sucks that you have to have that, and that's why. Well, they did say 2 times that people have been using the group chat feature on iMessage 2 times more since, I don't know. I don't know what they base that on, since lockdown, since COVID. So, I mean, people are obviously using it. There's a more need for it. But I just feel like for my friend basis and my contact basis, a lot of those people that I know don't have iPhones. So it really just defeats the purpose of not having an iPhone and doing the group chat. It's weird. It's incredibly weird. So I would say the group chat feature's great. You can get new emojis and stickers. Again, how COVID affects a lot of the stuff that Apple does now. We've got face masks as an ability to have on your emoji. And I mean, an emoji, I guess, is good. I don't really know. I don't really use it that much. Maps, there's a lot of the stuff here that's good. But I don't know. I really don't know. There's a noticeable jump cut there. Don't care about that. It's not live, thank God. I'm in a temporary studio where people are coming through and back, so ignore it. But, I mean, we could go over iOS 14 for quite a while. I'm literally just like an Apple spokesperson here that is just saying, new in iOS 14, the new Maps feature. But I don't want to sound like that. I get that you want to know, but like, you can go on the Apple website and have a look. So, I mean, that's solely a lot of the iOS feature stuff in a nutshell. In a nutshell. I will say in a nutshell. I won't say much else, but yes, in a nutshell, that is a lot of the stuff. So there's other stuff as well. We've got the voice memo. There's an ability to now enhance the voice, which is fantastic. I think that's great. I think I think voice memos, I don't know. I feel like voice memos is good in itself. A lot of people use it professionally even, and it's great now that you can cancel out noise, put effects on and stuff like that. I think that's great that you can do that. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff in here. The beautiful animations, the new weather, you can get hourly forecasts. This was being predicted before because Apple bought Dark Sky, I think it was, which was a very interesting weather app that kind of took the news and took the weather and put a twist on it, and it was very in-depth and very contextual and had a lot of information in it. So Apple's obviously bought that and they've put that into their software so they can have an ability to tell the weather a bit better. But I think the weather app's great on itself. So I think we're done with iOS 14. It's great, it's a good app, it's a good update. It gets the thumb of approval from me. These are two things I will say about this. So people have been digging and finding hidden features in iOS that Apple didn't mention, and one of them is back tap. So I can try and find it here for you, but basically iOS lets you tap the back of your phone and it gives you the ability to do different shortcuts. So double tap the back of your phone, you can take a screenshot. Double tap the back of your phone, you can lock it. Triple tap, you can God knows what. You can basically do anything. Here's it in theory here. So you've got the phone, you back tap it, it takes a screenshot. Fantastic. Revolutionary in my eyes, quite frankly. But you back tap it, that is a good one. So I give that to them. You can triple tap the back of your phone and it can launch the Google Assistant. So if you don't like Siri, who has got an all-new design, she's again like the phone call UI. She has a little circle at the bottom and she basically just gives you information at the top. However, you can't keep scrolling and looking at your information. So it might as well be like she's the full entire screen because you can't do things while she's in the background. But you do have that screen real estate to kind of refer to when you're talking to her. So the back tap feature is interesting. I mean, I'm looking at it now and going, that's actually pretty damn cool. You can add notes. It literally just taps on the back. But I did turn this off and I did tweet about it and I caused a bit of an uproar on my Twitter. Ben Geskin, sorry if I butchered the name, but he basically asked, what would you not want to, what do you want to see different in the next iOS? And I said the removal of the back tap feature. But it's true, I think a lot of people are having that problem now as well. You put the phone down and it automatically takes a screenshot. I mean, my phone is literally full of so many screenshots because I just put the phone down and it takes a screenshot. So I see a purpose for it, but I also don't see a purpose for it. I just think it's a bit of a gimmick, which a lot of things that Apple does is. But there's other good things as well. You've got now they've basically taken the Apple Watch feature, the hearing feature where you can get notifications if you're listening too loud. They've put it into the control center. So when you've got headphones on, it can tell you when something's too loud, if it's damaging your hearing for prolonged sessions. And going on to the sound thing, there's also a feature which is meant for hard of hearing people, but I think it's just fun to mess around with. It's a feature that tells you when there is a sound happening. So basically, it'll alert you if it hears stuff like a doorbell or a fire alarm. So there's this here. I don't know what he's playing here, but basically you can do fire alarm, smoke, baby crying, water running, water running. But yes, you can get water running, cats meowing, doorbells, trying to think of other stuff as well. But it's basically just a lot. And I tried it myself. It gets shouting as well, which I thought is incredibly interesting. And I tried it out the other day. I posted a few TikToks on it, and it's buzzy. It takes a bit of time for it to pick up on what the sound is, but it's buzzy. Like I was walking past the bathrooms and someone was washing their hands, and I got a notification on my phone that said, "We detect sound of water running." And then there was a dog barking, and then I did a fake fire alarm. I did the fire alarm with my voice. I was like, "Whoop." And surprisingly enough, the phone picked that up as a fire alarm. So it's interesting. It's good for hard of hearing people, but I think it's also handy. I've left it on. I've left the door knocking, and I've left the alarms on because most of the time I don't hear a door knock. So it's nice if an iPhone can pick up the sound of a door knocking, then hey, it's even better for me. And as well as fire alarms, I don't know when I'd even need that because, I'm not hard of hearing, so I'm going to be in the room, and when I hear a fire alarm going off, I'm going to know when the fire alarm's going off. I don't need an app to tell me that, but it's there nonetheless. It's helpful, it's interesting. It's just another thing that Apple has decided to put in, but it's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong, it's good. It's good for accessibility, and Apple's big on accessibility and making, disability, disadvantaged people still able to use their phones, like the whole voice control thing. It's great. I won't bash it, but I just think it's interesting.